Therefore, when the Constitution through Article 1 says India, which is Bharat, it is effectively tying constitutional India to its civilizational roots and says that India is the successor state of that particular civilization, therefore it becomes the civilization state and not just a nation state. What is the difference between a civilization and culture? संस्कृति और सभ्यता में कुछ तो अंतर होना चाहिए ना? What is the difference between सभ्यता and संस्कृति? Civilization effectively means that your journey has been so far and so wide and so deep that you have multiple sub-identities which are part of this particular huge canvas. That is the only way you can make sense of India. Trying to force-fit European-style nationalism on India will not work. Trying to apply a Judeo-Abrahamic concept to India's native spirit will not work because the pulse of this land is different. Each of these subcultures has a space. This is like a symphony, or let's call it an orchestra, where everyone has a role to play and everyone is equally important, without which the orchestra will fail. It cannot function. That is the concept of a civilization state. What does this mean in practical terms? If India sees itself as the successor civilization state of the Indian civilization, of the Bharatiya civilization, it has a duty to protect that particular space, because after thousands of years, you fortunately have one political unit which is capable of responding to domestic threats and external threats as one unit, as opposed to Janapadas running to each other's help whenever there is an external aggression. My fundamental cogitation is to invite people to appreciate the windfall gain in having one political unit called Bharat, as opposed to having Janapadas. Had you survived as Janapadas, I dare say you would not have survived. You would have been balkanized completely. And you would have been swallowed by people around. Therefore, your existence is contingent on being part of this political entity called Bharat. And in order for you to protect the identity of Bharat and its civilizational identity, you have to take a position with respect to who can be part of this country and who cannot. And that is not an unconstitutional decision, that is not an unconstitutional cogitation, that is not an unconstitutional thought. If the Constitution wanted to dissociate India's future and its present from its past, it should not have used the word Bharat. But by using the word Bharat, it has to be given a certain meaning. At the end of the day, it is a socio-legal document, which means it is a legal document that recognizes social realities and gives effect to social realities. There are so many lawyers here. Fundamental principle of interpretation when it comes to a legal instrument is no word used in any legislation is redundant or superfluous. It must be given some meaning. Because if it is not given any meaning, that means you admit that the legislature has made a mistake. And the assumption is that in using these words, there was a specific intent that the legislature had in mind when it used the word Bharat to make it synonymous with India. And if you go through the debates, the entire debate in the Constitution is, to a significant extent, what should be India's identity in light of the fact that it has now become home to multiple thought processes and faith processes. So we said, we will give ourselves a civilizational identity, and the promise of this particular civilization has always been equality regardless of religion, dharma nirpeksh. Whether it is sarva dharma sambhav, I'm not necessarily sure of it. Because to say that all religions are necessarily true may not be right from a philosophical or an argumentative standpoint, because the quality of thought of each religion is different. To respect two different people is different from respecting their thoughts equally. I don't need to necessarily equate the good with the bad and, let's say, the gold with the rubbish. But I will certainly take the position as a conscious country that regardless of what you believe in, I will protect your right to believe in that. However, if fundamentally your compass is oriented in such a way that it has aggression as part of its constitutional matrix, as part of its mental matrix, then as a country I have to protect what is mine and what belongs to this country. and what has originated from this country.